Does that mean it's recording?
Yeah, red blinky thing.
Red blinky thing.
But the camera's not straight. Look, it's like it's wonky. I don't know, is it?
No. That's just all the beer we drank last night. Is that better?
That looks better.
All right, let's just leave that in.
Okay.
All right.
The things we do.
So the hope is that this one actually works a whole lot better, because last week, would it be an over-exaggeration to say I lost my shit about the Instamics?
I thought we were going to be playing cricket with little microphones last week, or you were going to put them under the wheels of the car.
Let's not rule it out yet.
Yeah.
Look, the Instamics are a really good idea, and I know that I've had more dramas than you, but even you had dramas with them.
Yeah, I've had a couple. They're physically great.
Yeah.
But the app is terrible. The software experience of updating them is terrible. Yeah. But like as an actual physical device, they rock. If they could fix the other stuff, it would be great.
Just to quantify, when Scott says the app is terrible, like I think you forgot that you were doing this, but you were like literally in there the other day going, I've got to do this in order to make it work, and you just kept bashing.
Yeah, but I just do that automatically now, because that's the process to make it connect, right? You just press connect 37 times.
Like, I'm just so used to you're basically Stockholm syndrome with your Instamic. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I ended up going, screw this, I'm just going to go and get like the best recorder I could find. So.
And to clarify, like these parts aren't usually there, they're just adapters for the live mic.
Yeah, well this sort of leads us into my lack of knowledge about audio recorders, and then the question for the audience as well. So this is a Zoom H6, so the most positive feedback I got about anything was Zoom H6, which was sort of the top of the Zoom range.
It does look
which would be overkill, which would be pretty consistent with how I approach things once you've
lost your shit.
lose my shit.
That's it.
Which is why my home is full of Ubiquiti networking equipment, which is massively, massively overkill. But that worked out well, right?
Yeah, but it does work, yeah.
Because then I got really into Ubiquiti, and then they sent me some stuff, and then I did some courses for them, and that worked out really well. So Zoom, if you're listening, well, actually, we'll see, because I've got to actually like this first. Very quick tangential change. Then we'll come back to this device. I didn't tell you this either, but I got an email from someone from a VPN company. It was just yesterday, and ended up turning into a bit of an argument, because they're like, oh, we'd really like to put sponsorship on Have I Been Pwned for this product. And
you have a sponsor there, though.
Well, this is the thing. It's like they highlighted the 1Password thing. My original interpretation of it was they wanted to replace 1Password for. I honestly, I can't even remember the name of the VPN because I'd never heard it before. And I sort of said to them...
It's a ringing endorsement there when we find out who they are.
Why would I remove someone who I've trusted for 9 years, given a lot of my own hard money to, that I use and give all my family, with something I've never used before? Basically, you're just wanting to buy my voice. And I was trying, and I was even having trouble finding the words, because I've got sponsor links, but they're usually companies I've worked with or I endorse, or it's just one little thing. But I was just trying to get across to these guys, like, I've got no idea what this product is, and they're like, well, let us give you a free one, and then that will influence your views. It's like, no, it's...
How little they understand you. Like, if that's what they come to you with, it's like, you've not even done your basic homework, right?
And it was from, like, affiliates at. So, obviously, they were just wanting to buy a voice. And we've seen this before, right, and look, I mean, we're both in a situation, people pop up and they're like, we'd like to give you product or money for voice. And I think you've got to be really careful about it, because it's really easy to end up being that person, and then what happens to your reputation? You don't want to sell,
like, for lack of a better term, you don't want to just sell out. You know, I would never just take a direct, like, you know, send this tweet and say our product is awesome for X $1,000.
What if they offered you $1 million?
Well, everyone has a price for everything. If we're going to be completely reasonable,
we just found Scott's price.
If someone wants to give me $1 million for a tweet,
if you were like Kevin Hart and you got like $1 million for a tweet,
yeah, for sure. But like not for any reasonable amount of money. I would never risk my reputation for.
So if you're after cost of voice, please offer him an unreasonable amount of money. Back to the recorder. So I went and got the Zoom H6, which was like, okay, give me the full fat version. Part of the reason I got it is last week we tried doing this with my son Ari as well. We needed 3 inputs. Now I believe we could have done 3 inputs with an H5. An H6 was a little bit more money, and then it was like 4 inputs. And this is something I'll use every week probably for many, many years to come. So I got the device, need an SD card. That's fine, I know what SD cards are. Got the microphones. I don't actually understand microphones. So I got lav mics. So we got 2 of these lav mics with a 3.5mm jack. But of course, the H6 takes one of these fat, what are they, XHRs, I think?
No, isn't that a request from JavaScript?
This is not a cross-origin resource request. It takes these ones, and then we thought, no problem. Talking to the guy in the shop, who would it be fair to say we did not have a lot of confidence in the guy in the shop?
No, yeah, it was. He was literally like, oh yeah, this will do it.
And he's like, just go and get some of these jacks. So we went and got the jacks, which are the 3.5.
So for me, that's like, is that phono?
Yeah.
And then 3.5 in the back.
To the fat kind of classic one, and you can actually like get these into the center of this particular socket, but don't work. So fortunately, we had Stephen Horns here, friend and fellow speaker, and Steve-O gave us a couple of mics for today. If you know what it is that actually need adapter-wise, I'd really like to know. He did say that these take phantom power, and you turn on phantom power on the audio unit and they send it out. Look, I'm okay saying I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. And I just hope that when we finish talking about all this, it's actually recorded and it's okay. But
well, the little thing goes up and down when we speak, so...
It does, and it does say recording. This is one of the things that really bugged me with the Instamics, because everything was so implicit. It's like push buttons, hope it works. Now go and record everything, and then when you get to the end...
And then Troy hadn't turned it on.
Maybe it worked, and then things happen that we don't talk about anymore. Anyway, if you're listening to this, it worked. All right, so if you do know, like, what are the jacks that I need? Like, someone explain the science to me, because at the shop the guy was like, you need the 2 rings and not the 3 rings, because the 3 rings are when you have
the number of notches on the
left channel, right channel mic.
Yeah.
And then the 3 rings here, like I think one is left channel, one's right channel, one's power or something like that. So if someone has like a primer for this,
there has to be an infographic or like some, like something.
Are you actually asking for an infographic?
I have 1,000 of them that people want me to sell.
If you would like to send Scott an infographic, send it to Scott Helmat.
No.
All right, on to other things. I had a few different things here, and I'm going to do it out of order to the notes I made. I just went to your talk. Admittedly, I came in like exactly on the last sentence, because I was helping Ari prepare for his kids' coding club, which he's got to do in half an hour from now. Came in right at the last sentence, and I got a little bit about encryption, and maybe if we work backwards in your talk, you had a slide there which was, you quoted yourself, nice one, where you're effectively saying that not having encryption on the web was like a design flaw.
Yeah, it's a bug.
Please
explain.
We need
to fix it. Well, just, there's a whole 1 hour kind of back talk to this, but talking through from like 94 first protocol, SSL v1 and 2, but all the way through to present day, and just how, like, if we were to tackle this now, if we were to make like, the web v2 or something, there wouldn't even be a consideration of HTTP these days. It just wouldn't.
You'd encrypt by default.
Yeah, everything nowadays should be encrypted by default. Anything new should be encrypted by default, and the internet and the web are a very different beast to those times, 20, 30 years ago, and it's like, it's a bug. Like, we just need to fix the bug. The lack of encryption is a bug.
So that's the way to think about it. And what was the broader scope of the entire talk?
So it's kind of a talk of 2 halves. The first half was going all the way back to, I opened the talk with like pictures of devices from 1994 that we use. Like, this is way before iPod first generation with the clicky wheel, way before the Xbox ever first console. Back to like the IBM Simon ginormous big phone. Then it's like, this is the year that we got encryption, and I went through all the iterations of the protocols and what happened to get us through to present day. So that's kind of like the objective look at how we got from there to here. And then the second half is kind of looking at the issues that we've come across in terms of adoption, 1.2, 1.3. We talked about the phishing thing and certificates, and how with any shift in an industry comes the people that will abuse that shift for negative reasons.
And hey, while you're there, can I interrupt you? So when you're talking about 1.1, 1.2, Qualys has just changed something on their ratings for TLS versions. Do you want to explain what that is?
So SSL Labs, if you haven't used it, sslabs.com, you just literally point it at your website, it will do a scan. It takes about 1 minute to do, and it does a scan of your website and gives you like the summary card at the top, basically a grade from A+ to F, and then like 10 pages of super useful technical data. And anyone that was on an A+ is now going to be dropped down to, I think, a B from memory. I need to go back and check if you still support the legacy TLS 1.0 and 1.1 protocol versions. Now, if you go onto my blog, my latest blog at the time of recording this is actually about what people need to do and when the dates are coming in the browsers as well. So it's not just SSL Labs have become like the gold standard, like the de facto standard for this. If you don't get an A+ on SSL Labs, everybody wants to do what they need to do to get the grade. So they're kind of using that leverage to get people out ahead of the fact that the browsers will soon start deprecating these protocols. So if you're not supporting, let's say the highest protocol version on your site is 1.1, I think it's like March, your site will just stop working in Firefox, because Firefox will simply refuse to connect because you don't have a high enough version.
And I think we've sort of got two different issues here. So for SSL Labs, to be clear, if you support 1.0 and 1.1 at all, you're going to be bumped down, even if you support 1.2 and 1.3?
Well, so this is let me just double check that, because I believe, my understanding, because I read the blog about this, was that it's if you don't support a higher version, because that's the change that's coming in Chrome, and that's also the change that's coming in Firefox. They just require that higher versioning. So I'm just going to quickly run a scan on my site now, because like I said, it takes about a minute, so I'll just let that rip through. But regardless, people need to start taking action. We should really be supporting TLS 1.2 and 1.3 now anyway.
Oh, here you go. Just found
1.2 and 1.3 have massive performance and security advantages, so if you're not using them, your website's going slower than it needs to.
So this actually dates all the way back to November 19, 2018. SSL Labs grade change for TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1 protocols. Now the latest update is on the 16th of Jan, so it's just like 2 weeks before data recording. The grade change is now live on the development server at dev.sslabs.com. Servers that support TLS 1.0 and 1.1 are capped to B grade on the development server. Now, I'd imagine this would mean even if you're supporting newer versions of the protocol, you still get capped, because if you could have a downgrade style attack and fall back to an earlier version.
So, I mean, to be honest, it may sound like quite a big change, a drastic change. If we look at my crawler.ninja data, then the amount of sites supporting that is, and depending on that, is not huge anyway. We've already seen huge organizations like GitHub don't support 1.0 and 1.1 and haven't done since... when did they do it? They did it like a year ago or something. So if you've been using GitHub or any of these other big sites, then it's not even a change that will impact you. I agree that we need to start turning them off. The interesting thing is, it sounds like we're doing a lot by turning off 1.0 and 1.1, but like what you need to realize is that 1.1 is basically irrelevant. So if you're turning off 1.0, turning off 1.1 is like, it doesn't matter at all, because it's an insignificant protocol version.
So Steve-O told me if the light here keeps flashing, it means that your level's too high. We're learning.
Too loud.
So
are you testing in prod?
I'm literally testing in prod here. Like I've turned us both down just a fraction, and I hope that when I play this back, it's not all just like clippy at that point. But we'll figure that out soon enough.
We'll see what happens. So here's my A+.
So okay, but what versions of TLS do you support?
Yeah, so I have 1.0 and 1.1 in there, so it'll be a cap to a B. However, the interesting thing is my blog is behind Cloudflare.
Yes.
And Cloudflare is never going to turn off 1.0 and 1.1.
But isn't it configurable?
Oh, maybe. I've not looked.
Because in the admin, you could configure it for newer versions, couldn't you? You could say, let's like try 1.3 in test mode or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look in the UI actually, but they're not going to turn that off globally, because people that have like Windows XP clients would lose them all.
But given that they previously allowed you to turn on newer versions on a site-specific basis...
Yeah, for sure. There's probably a level of configurability that I've just not seen in the UI yet. I would imagine that would be...
I'm just loading one of our banks here. The test is still running, but I bet you that's going to support all the protocols. Because the discussion that's going to happen now is there's going to be all of these organisations like the banks going, do we need to leave these older versions still running in order to support older clients? What about the valuable Windows XP market?
So I had this. So I contracted in the UK finance sector for quite a few years when I was doing my consultancy gig, and we had this exact conversation about SSL v3. And one of the actual discussions at the time was, if we as a bank turn this off, yes, all the security things are all good, but what if there's some person out there with a laptop and they now can't access their money? The news headline is like, bank disables customers' access to money. And they could be
going to a branch.
So but then everyone does everything online, right? And they were really worried about turning this off and everybody losing access to their online banking and money. And they looked at the realistic risk of it actually going wrong. Then they have insurance and they don't care. And it's like, we accept the risk and we'll just keep rolling with SSL v3.
I guess the thing is, you can always do the numbers, right? Like a bank or any online asset is going to have the numbers about what clients are our customers running, what are the versions. They're always going to have to kill some percentage of people.
That was really interesting and easy because we looked at and logged the percentage of inbound connections that use SSL v3. But then it's like, is that 10 really active clients or 100 people over a more spread out period of time?
Yeah.
Then you have to bind the inbound SSL v3 connections to the application layer and say, is this like one person doing loads of activity or not? So that it was really interesting to try and actually correlate not the percentage of traffic using SSL v3, but the percentage of people. That was the thing that we needed that was really hard. But in the end, the cost of the project to deprecate it, it was just cheaper to buy all of the customers a new laptop. So
did you do that?
No, I suggested that and everyone laughed like you did, and that didn't happen. I was like, literally, this is just so expensive. We could just buy all of these people like a new Chromebook.
You'd be right.
And it'd be good.
Now, I sort of said there are two aspects to this. So one is obviously the grade rating by SSL Labs. That doesn't break anything. It's more just like Hall of Shame. I have prompted banks, I'll rephrase it, I've shamed banks into upgrading their TLS things before by using SSL Labs reports. I remember one particularly. I wrote about bank grade security and how many just like shitty results banks had. And they upgraded.
You don't want bank grade security on your website, I think is the...
and I guess the other side of it is browser support. Now, Chrome and Firefox are deprecating support for older versions of TLS.
Yep.
But that's not to say that if the website still supports an older version but also supports a new version, stuff's going to break. It's more if the website only supports, say, 1.0 and 1.1. Do you know the timeline for stuff being killed on those versions?
So Firefox is going to kill it in March, current plan.
So if you don't have, I imagine, 1.2 or newer?
1.2 or newer for Firefox in March. Chrome is introducing right now, I don't know if it depends if you've updated or not, but if you go to badssl.com, which is a really cool test site, and you go to like their 1.0 or 1.1 subdomains, you get like the not secure indicator in Chrome now. So it kind of treats it like HTTP basically. Right. Even though you're on HTTPS.
And they normally start with visual indicators and then move on to harder control. So at some point they'll probably kill those connections
for sure.
Okay, did my... oh boy.
Bank grade security.
Well, this is really interesting. I just ran this against anz.com.au. This is Australian New Zealand Bank. And but also look.
Oh my word!
Look at the. Oh boy, that's everything. What's Golden Noodle?
Golden Doodle. New attack just created.
No, Golden Doodle, because that sounds perfectly normal. But I don't know if you saw on the previous page. So anz.com.au, the Australian New Zealand Bank, just scored an F grade. But the server it resolves to has a host name or a domain name against it of anz.cn. And then the second reference here is around anz.com.hk.
But is that just, are they just grabbing like the common name from the cert because that's in the CN? Oh no, the CN is .com.
Yeah.
And it's not even in the SAN.
Maybe requires more investigation, this one.
That's interesting.
That is
maybe
interesting.
You've been hacked.
Zombie Poodle, Golden Noodle, and OpenSSL. Can we just stop with this shit?
We've got to have names and logos for all vulnerabilities. Like this is how it works.
Moving on, in your talk, someone asked about governments and encrypted messages, and I always have a feeling when someone asks us these sorts of questions that they expect us to be like way on the extreme side of privacy, and it's like, screw the government, don't let anyone into our cryptos. Yeah. You were a lot more neutral. So what was... and the question really was, there's all this crypto, what about governments and they want access to
think
it?
Of the children,
think of the children,
terrorists.
Your replies seem to be a bit more pragmatic.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. When I hear that question, I expect everyone's going to hear like this like militant privacy, encrypt all the damn things and screw the government, but break it down into kind of a few simple points. Do I think people should have private communications? Like, yes. Do I think that law enforcement needs to read the messages of terrorists? So it's like, yes, but caveat, like there's more points. It's from a technical perspective, can we do it? Yes. Like I think there's no questions there. And should the government be able, with probable cause and the correct legal constructs, be able to read people's messages? I also think yes. The questions are not around, for me, that aspect of it. It's who is the gatekeeper and how does the governance of that work? And I think if you were in there, I was saying to the person, would you be happy for the British government as a British citizen to say, we think that you've done this and we've got a court order and we're going to read your messages? I was like, okay, what about the American government? And he's like, yeah, for sure. If they think I'm like doing some terrorist plot in America, and I'm like, okay, what about the Chinese government? Yeah. And then it's like tumbleweed, or the Russian government, or and then it's like we can keep going and going. And so it's not around technically whether we can or cannot do it. I think all reasonable people want law enforcement to stop terrorism, I guess the concern is around that slippery slope, and that's my concern is, once we do that, what happens?
I think the technical ability is part of the question, because the real question is there the technical ability to do it without jeopardizing the ecosystem for everyone? And I think the whole sort of concept
define jeopardize.
Well, I think jeopardize in this context means the communications of people who shouldn't be targeted or are unreasonably targeted is exposed. And I think the thing that worries people is the premise of backdoors and key escrow and things like that. But your reply was also much more around think about like the endpoints of the devices themselves.
Yeah,
right?
We don't lose the traditional methods of like the police can come and seize my phone and read the messages on it and do all that kind of stuff as well.
So you might have end-to-end crypto, but you've still got two ends
where
things are readable.
They're not. Well, I do have device-level encryption, but like we're talking about the transport medium and then the storage medium on each end. So yeah, they still have the traditional mechanisms. They just can't read the messages in flight.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's like you say, what's reasonable. Like Iran wants to read the messages of a journalist, or the American government wants to read the messages of a terrorist.
Well, that Kazakhstan situation where they want to put like root certs on everyone's machines,
yeah,
so that
that'll
they can
do
intercept all the HTTPS.
So that was if anyone hasn't heard about that, have a read on what the Kazakhstan government did. And basically, if you were in Kazakhstan and you tried to go on a website outside, they'd intercept all TLS connections and serve you up a page that was like, download and install our certificate on your device. And if you install someone else's certificate on your device, it pretty much means they can decrypt all your traffic, basically. So the government was like, look, let us do global decryption, or we're not going to let your traffic out of the country. And at that point, the internet basically probably doesn't work because not much stuff is hosted in Kazakhstan. So it's a pretty effective. I mean, maybe local stuff is, but I imagine a lot of stuff is going to.
If you're part of our
break.
lucrative Kazakhstan-based audience, please let us know. What do you normally use from Kazakhstan?
So, yeah. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening in this space, that's for sure.
So speaking of governments, and I'm conscious Ari's got to do his talk in about 15 minutes, we've got to wrap up a bit over there. I saw a really, really cool story pop up with a nice Have I Been Pwned reference. I think I showed you this the other day. So there's a tweet here, and the headline is, what Have I Been Pwned taught DHS's, as in Department of Homeland Security's, internal cyber chief about passwords. And there's a story here on Cyberscoop. Which is super cool because they're talking about Have I Been Pwned and how I imagine it's the CISO of the DHS is like, like I use this site, and I quote tweeted part of it where it says, the man charged with protecting the Department of Homeland Security systems from hackers also maintains an account on the Have I Been Pwned website, and it regularly reminds him of the risks passwords pose. And I know, I just like.
Isn't it cool that like really important official people like that have to say the word pwned? Can you imagine like some CISO, the super important person, walking around like, yes,
in like a government capacity as well. So Paul Beckman, so thank you, Paul, for at the Zero Trust Security. Yeah, it was Paul. So yeah, awesome, Paul. That's really cool. And incidentally, I'd love to see the US government on that list of governments that have free and complete access.
6? Oh, they're coming for you. Is it 6 or 7 of them?
It's 8. I think it's 8. I think it's 8. Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple where I've drafted the blog post to announce them, and they're just still going through the PR people that look at it.
Yeah.
And it's only like 2
government PR and legal. I bet that's a hoot.
Governments be governmenting. Last thing before I get on a sponsor message. Yesterday you were sitting like here with the BBC film crew, and as best I could to tell, you were like doing your hand model job.
Yeah,
they're just here and they're zooming on Scott's hands, and Scott's all like, look at my hands.
There is more context to this.
Well, let's just start with my context here. With these hands, there I go. What are you doing?
So yeah, I mean, I do, like you, a few bits of TV and radio work, and quite a few years ago,
hand modelling on the side.
Oh, like look at this beautiful, beautiful. I don't even know what do you look at on a hand that's beautiful.
On your hand?
Nothing. A few years ago, I went to Vegas. I went to DEF CON, and the BBC, like I had a film crew follow me around. It was like a hacker's guide to DEF CON kind of thing, and we went to Black Hat, and it was really good. Whilst I was there, I got an implant in my hand. So I have in my, kind of between my thumb and my first finger, an NSC implant kind of injected in there. I actually have the video if you want that, or pictures.
Not if you're squeamish.
It's not if you're squeamish. So they like put this big needle in and inject the NFC chip into my hand, and it's just like an NFC chip. You can then program it like an NFC chip. So the TV show is around kind of modifying the human body and can you hack the human body. And it's kind of interesting because I think there's a lot of odd views on this. People are like, oh my god, why would you put this thing in your hand, and like what can you do with it? And it's like, remember that we've been doing implants into the human body of a technical nature for a long time with like pacemakers and insulin devices.
Because you're sick.
Right, but the point is like, we put technology inside people already. Like it's not a totally new idea. It's just now there's not a direct medical requirement for it.
What do you actually do with it?
So right now it's programmed as my contact, my business card, essentially. So if you scan it with a phone, it's like importing the contact into your phone. So it's like name, phone number, email address, and website address.
With an NFC-enabled phone?
Yeah, so that's like, any recent phone. The only kind of
How
other...
do you scan that with an iPhone?
It still just works, like really? Normal. I have to take my shielding case off.
Okay, so first of all, you unwrap your iPhone.
Well, like if you're not a total kind of tinfoil hat person and like shield your phone, but yeah, so like the chip's there, and I just put it on under the camera is where the NFC chip is, and it just comes up with that.
OpenScottHelm.co.uk in Safari.
So you can program it to do different things like that.
You must be popular at parties.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's cool when you're talking to people and it's like, scan my, and like people rub my phone on my hand.
In fairness, it was you who ended up with the BBC film crew filming your hands yesterday instead of me, so you must be doing something right.
So to answer the question of useful things, the old building that I used to hot desk in programmed my key card on it, so I could walk up to the door and like boop, put my hand on the door and never forget my pass. So there are useful things you can do.
That's much better than the other NFC thing that's on your hand, like 2 inches away from the chip without the blood and the needle. Anyway, on that note. Last thing this week, sponsor, I've got Varonis back on the sponsor bar today. They're talking about the security FWD, brand new YouTube show from Varonis. Watch episode 1, How Far Can Wi-Fi Travel? We touched on that the other day. Man, how much Wi-Fi is around here?
Lots. Have you looked at the list? It's cool.
I haven't looked at the list. But anyway, so we're right at the end of NDC London. I think we've finished all the talks, haven't we? Because we did Cyberbreak in the day. I did my talk this morning. You did your talk just now. What were our ratings? We got really good ratings.
Yeah, I just tweeted them. Those. Yeah, so...
Because at NDC, every NDC we do around the world, there's always cards, like the red, yellow, green cards. Yeah. Everyone walks out of the room, puts a card in the box. It's good feedback. So we scored, in your talk just now, everything's... actually, our talk together, Cyberbreak, and 128 green, 4 yellow, 0 red. And then your talk, 87 green, 4 yellow, 0 red. That's nice work. Awesome. I don't know what I got from mine. I know that last week in Oslo, I think I got 55 green and 1 yellow. It was a smaller audience, so... Which,
that's like 98, 99% or something. I'm pretty happy with that.
I still maintain, if you're not upsetting anyone, it's probably a really boring talk. If I got all green, I'd be going, geez, I really didn't push the boundaries very far on this talk.
4 yellows is the sweet spot. Like, a couple of people got a bit offended.
So anyway, we both wrap up tomorrow. You go home to Manchester tomorrow.
Yep.
I get back on the plane with my son Ari, and we're heading back to Australia, and it's like 35 degrees or something at home at the moment. So I'm looking really forward to actually getting back some sunshine. When am I going to see you?
Get loads of sunshine at home.
Well, actually, it has been. It's like 13 degrees here in London.
It's hot in London today.
Super weird. Will I see you before Oslo in June?
No, I don't think so. Actually, not in person.
Not as far as we know. Just online the whole time.
We should do something.
We'll do something. All right, well, hey, thanks very much for watching. I really hope that this thing has worked out well. If you do know more about it than me, please let me know. It's certainly going to be better than the bloody Insta mics. And I'm sure I'll have some stuff to tweak, including Insta new microphones and things like that. And we'll keep working on this, and hopefully this is the video now sorted, or the audio now sorted. Thanks for watching.
See you.